Oh my God.
Yeah, you should cut all of this.
I'm not going to.
Good.
But I should.
Yeah, this
sorry,
explains,
warning, I guess.
This explains why I am the way I am.
I'm back with my friend Neil. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff today, but mainly your clothing line.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So tell me about Western Evil.
Western Evil is basically just my expression of art. It has been for the last 14 years. There's been different eras of the company. I started out doing mostly like horror-inspired art onto t-shirts, and then that kind of bled into more of true crime. And, now I'm kind of like on the third iteration, which is more of like fashion design and stuff like that I've had for a long time.
Just to kind of put it out there to you guys, he has like outrageous shirts. Like they're outrageous. They're amazing, but they definitely, we sold them at the Rue Morgue for a long time.
Did you sell the Heavy Metal Boner Party one, or was that, it was before, right?
No.
Okay.
Tell them what that was.
Okay, so I once had a shirt that said Heavy Metal Boner Party, and it was a pentagram made of dicks. The actual circle of the pentagram was one continuous shaft, veiny shaft, and it was Come Squirting 666.
I love that. I love that you're like veiny. Very
The
descriptive.
details is what really matters.
Hey man, devil's in the details, dude. Yeah, he's got like one of my favorite shirts that's now discontinued is the Jim Jones shirt. If you're native to Indiana, you should know who Jim Jones is from the People's Temple. He started actually here in Indianapolis. But it said thirsty. And if you don't know, look up Jim Jones in Jonestown in that shirt.
Did I ever tell you that I tried to buy his first church here in Indianapolis?
No.
So back maybe just a little bit after I was leaving Pennsylvania, around the time I was leaving Pennsylvania. So this probably was around 2018, 2017, something like that. His first church was up for sale here in Indianapolis.
What was that going for?
Do you want to know? 'Cause
Yeah.
I'll tell you. It was going for $198,000 for 600 square feet. 198, or maybe it was even just 98. Like, it's been a few years, but like I put in an offer for it, and they said that they wanted to keep it at church. They asked what I wanted to do with it, and I was like, "Oh, I want to print murder T-shirts out of your basement and turn the top into like an Airbnb." And like, we think we want to keep it at church. And I was like, I put an offer, and they're like, no, we're gonna go with a church. So.
Yeah, they're really big on that. There was a church in Franklin, and actually, now that you say that, I do think we talked about it because it was a couple years ago.
Yeah,
in 2019.
Yeah,
it was before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. There's a big church downtown Franklin, down the street, and we were like, let's get this place. We'll build a house in the back. We'll have a recording studio. We'll do a whole like blah blah blah. And they were like, "Nah, Grandma got married here." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's like it was. I mean." Damn near falling down.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if you cared so much about where Grandma got married, why are you letting the ceiling fall in?
Yeah,
like,
fuck your grandma. We want to live here, bro.
Yeah, they're weird about that.
Yeah.
But that's not all he does. He doesn't just do apparel. Like you said, he's moving into being the Gothic Calvin Klein, right?
The creepy Calvin Klein is kind of what I'm going
creepy?
for. Right, that's what I want. I want to go for the creepy Calvin Klein. But, even when I was doing the true crime stuff, I was trying to stay ahead of everyone else that were, considered like my competition. Especially at these shows, I try to stay ahead of the curve and step ahead of everyone else, so I was doing Jim Jones purses. I had a Kool-Aid purse, that would like pop top. It had grape velvet lining inside, or Flavor Aid purse, whatever you want to call it. Either way, just don't sue me because it was off brand. I had different things. I was doing dresses. I was doing leggings. Anything that I felt was different than everyone else out there. I became that king of true crime apparel. And, now I feel like I'm ready to turn a corner and go in a different direction. And I'm excited about where I'm about to go with that.
You said the king, right? Didn't you used to be an Elvis impersonator?
I was an Elvis impersonator.
Where'd you do that at?
Anywhere they would fucking pay me.
You got paid to do it?
Oh yeah, I got
paid. You were like
paid
legit.
Yeah. So I actually competed at the Indianapolis State Fair, or the Indiana State Fair in Indianapolis here. And I placed second. So they had this big thing, and they had a big Elvis competition. and I got second. But you know what? The guy who beat me, his mother was a professional opera singer. So he had some chops on him. And I was like, okay, you know what? If I'm going to lose, like,
To a guy who can actually do it.
at least I lost to a guy who sings opera. You know what I mean? Like, because I was probably 24, 25, and I was just all over that stage. You know, I was just like shaking my little tush as good as I could. And I got gigs. You know, I got to perform on Elvis's birthday. I had other people who like would book me for their birthdays or their special events and stuff like that. So when I was putting together the business, that's how I made extra money to pay my rent or eat on. So it was great. I had a blast doing it.
Speaking of being on the top of list, wasn't there a list you said out there about the worst t-shirts on the internet?
There was a young lady. I'm sure she's a lovely person. But she made a top 10 worst t-shirts on the internet list. And I made that list 3 fucking times. And I was also I had the number 1 spot. So I really like dominated that list.
You got number 1.
I did. Yeah. I feel like I'm number 2 in just about everything, but like I made number 1.
What was the number 1 shirt?
The number 1 shirt was the Black Dahlia Black Flag parody shirt that I had. You know, and one thing that I did learn from that is that there's no bad publicity. So even though this woman made like a 30-minute video shitting on everything that I do, it actually worked in my benefit because that shirt saw a resurgence in sales. Like I think I sold out of that shirt again after she like went out of her way to kind of disparage it. Worked great for me.
Dude.
So I should have sent her like a Christmas card or something, but you know, but whatever. What I do isn't for everyone. It doesn't have to be for everyone. Like there's enough people out there that love true crime and have a healthy understanding of what true crime is. And it doesn't have to be for everybody.
So you said you're moving out of true crime now, right?
Yeah. I think I'm going to keep a few things there. It's still an interest of mine. And like I said, you know, everything that is that company is just an expression of my interest in my art. But yeah, I'm moving into more of my fashion design, you know, and I like where it's going.
From what I've already seen you do, I can't wait to see where you're going to go even further.
Thank you.
So I think it's awesome. It's like classy, Western Gothic clothing.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Yeah. You know,
you're on brand. It's definitely not off brand for what you've been doing, you know?
when I first started the company, you know, all those years ago, this is what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be kind of like a goth Western punk. And, you know, I wanted to be kind of like Hank 3 to Hank Williams, you know, like my real last name is Autry. You know, I know my social media name isn't Autry on there. It's Neil Diamond, but my real last name is Autry. And some people are familiar with Gene Autry, the singing cowboy. So I wanted to be the darker, gother, punkier version of like Western wear. I just didn't have the means of finance and production understanding. I didn't have the sources and stuff that I do now. And now that I have that, and now that I have the capabilities to do it, like I'm gonna do it. And I want to kind of keep like an old classic fashion design with current goth and punk kind of stylings. And I think it's going to go great. Like that alternative thing is blowing up right now.
But you've said to me in the past that like, if you don't like a shirt and even if it's blowing up, you're done with it.
Yeah.
You're not going to do something just because you're making money on
No,
it.
because it's for me. I hope that there are enough people out there in the world that like the same dumb shit as me, that they're going to support me. And, you know, I feel like I've made enough friends, made enough fans while on the road for the last 14 years that people are ready to go along for the journey. You know, they're willing to go for the ride. And as I evolve and change things, you know, people come with, people drop off, new people come in, and that's okay. Like that's what it should be. You know, like if you stay stagnant and you don't ever try and move forward, what progression and what fulfillment does that provide me as an artist? You know, so like, if I do something that I don't like, maybe the fans like it, maybe the customers like it, but if I don't like it, I'm not happy with it. I'll get rid of it because it's my art. It's my art, and what I say kind of goes because it's my company.
It's easy for you, I think, to be talked about with how crazy your shirts are. You know what I mean? Do you have any experiences like with people coming up to you like at your pop-up shows at the conventions and
Man. Yeah, you know, it hasn't happened often. You know, there's only one time that I can really remember in the 14 years that someone like really kind of threw a fit. Like every once in a while, you'll get people kind of come by and they'll look and they'll be like, "Oh, that's gross," or like, and then they just kind of like shuffle off, right? But whatever. I was doing an oddity show, and I believe it was Oklahoma. And so keep in mind, we're at an oddities convention where like everything is fucked up and weird. Then that's the whole point of being there. And I had a line at my booth, and people were buying shirts and, moving on. And a woman had actually waited about like 5 or 6 people in line just to fucking yell at me. So like she was real like upset about it. She looked at I have an Unsolved Mysteries Black Dahlia shirt that I've since kind of like discontinued. But she was so fucking pissed off about it. And she was going in on me, and I was like, look, if you don't like it, just walk away. Like, I'm not making you buy this. Like, if you don't like it, go away. There's like 4 people like now behind you who are ready to buy something. Like, just move on. And she, stood there and kept going in on me and kept going in. I was like, look, lady, like, where the fuck do you think you are? Like, there's a booth right behind me selling human skulls, but you're upset about an image printed on a t-shirt. Like, get your fucking shit together, grow the fuck up. Like, you don't like it, just move the fuck on. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I've always thought about everything. Like, it's not just my art, it's other people's art. If you don't like something and it's not hurting you, just move the fuck on.
So she was the oddity in your oddity convention, for sure.
The elusive Karen.
Yeah. But like when we had an oddity store in the back of the shop, that was different.
Yeah.
People were coming in for their tattoos, for a memorial tattoo. And then they go in the shop and they're like, why are there human skeletons everywhere? And like, it was, I always say it's like they always remind me of like the old lady off Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Like the babysitter. When she walks in the room.
That's a really obscure reference that's getting a remake.
Yeah. Is it getting a remake?
It's fucking getting a remake. God. I saw it in a poster in the movie theaters. I was like, what the fuck? Who greenlit that fucking thing? Like,
that's weird.
Yeah, it's totally weird.
When she walks in and like, she's like looking around the room like, oh, and then she dies.
Yeah.
That's how they look. They walk in the shop. But it's different because you're walking into a tattoo shop. You're not going to an oddity convention where that's all that is there.
What about the motherfuckers that are coming in there to get like an infinity symbol and then they just see like there is no infinity, there is a fucking end. Like, and then their realization is that, oh fuck, I'm gonna fucking die.
They walk in the door and there's a hearse. Like, oh, interesting.
I wonder how long the longevity of my art is gonna last. I wonder like what my legacy will be left behind. Will it be like a Your Mom Swallows Period Blood t-shirt, or will it be like a Charles Manson E.T. hugging t-shirt that like, I would love that. I would love in 100 years when like aliens dominate the earth, they like pull some like dead corpse up and on it is just like a fucking like heavy metal boner party shirt. And they're like, what the fuck I'm glad we killed these fucking earthlings.
I think they're already watching you right now saying the same thing. Your brand was definitely showing us something before it was out.
Thank you.
I thought anyway, like at least in my world, you have Hot Topic and all that, which you had to deal with.
I did.
Topic,
I had to deal with Hot Topic. I feel like in my mind, I told myself that was validation, like that was like a success. It was funny because like when I announced it on social media, like I had people, they were like, fucking sell out, you're going into fucking Hot Topic. I was like, yeah, motherfucker, I sold out into eating this month. You know what I mean? Like what? Like, yeah, I'll go fuck myself. I can fucking eat and pay my bills this month. Like, I'm a real sellout. But like,
that's because you have a bunch of punk friends, and I don't mean like friends that are punks. I mean you have punk fans.
Yeah,
like
I mean, honestly, when I first started, like there was 3 people that were buying my clothes, and I felt like those 3 types of people were supporting me and feeding me and paying my rent. It was punk rockers, professional wrestlers, and porn stars. That's all that was buying my shit. Like at first,
guess which one I was.
like one of my first shows, like Diamond Dallas Page came by and bought a bunch of stuff, and then like Jake the Snake bought stuff from me.
That's cool.
Yeah, Kizarny and all these like people who were like, I watched growing up, and then. I remember doing shows in LA, and like I remember seeing these porn star actors, adult actresses that I watched in the privacy of my own home, like buying my stuff. And I was like, oh, I know you. Like, this is as close to your boobies as I'll ever get. Like,
you were selling your clothes to outrageous people because your clothes were outrageous.
Yes.
Or
totally.
still are.
Yeah, totally.
Speaking of Hot Topic, I mean, that's kind of like where it's the Walmart of that, right? Most small little towns, they have a Hot Topic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was the only place we could go to get jackets like this. I don't even know where I got this. It wasn't a Hot Topic, but regardless, that was it, right?
You know, I got to give Hot Topic credit for this. You know, I kind of poo-poo it now because the hoops that I had to jump through to actually get my stuff into the stores and the price points they were kind of wanting. You know, we went through our song and dance and agreed on whatever, but I got to credit them this. You know, the new buyer who came on board when they first got me into the store, they came through my booth and they looked at my booth, and they had picked a few items and they're like, we want these. And I was like, you can't carry my stuff in your store. And she was like, we love your stuff. We definitely want it in the store. And I was like, my stuff? She's like, yeah. So I said, okay, like, let's make a deal, you know, like, but literally the person that had walked in before the buyer of Hot Topic was the owner and manager of the largest punk store in New York City. He pulled a few shirts. He says, these are terrible. Like, I can't sell this in my store. Like, people would be too offended by this. I can't sell this. Billy Idol comes into my store. I can't sell this because, you know, so-and-so, you know, is a fan of, you know, whatever. And I looked at him and I was like, dude, you fucking sell like Gigi Allen shirts as soon as you fucking walk in the door. You sell like Murder Junkie shirts. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That my stuff is too much for your store? Like, you're the biggest punk store in New York City. Like, that's the Mecca. Like, you're on St. Mark's Place where fucking punk rock is lasting and holding strong. Like, and I'm too much for you? But fucking Hot Topic from the mall is like, hey, we're down to fucking work with you. So when Hot Topic came knocking, I fucking answered because, like I said, man, they were going to feed me that month and they were going to like pay my rent.
Okay, I'm going to out you real quick because you, in your younger days in life, since like a teenager, you said you always wanted to become an officer.
I did, yeah.
I'm going to point out your weird, twisted brain has to be there too because I don't know one first responder that's not jacked up and their humor is way dark. Did that fall into that or did that influence, like being around those guys, like...
Well, I can tell you why my weird brain makes these weird shirts. That's a series of shitty childhood, video rental stores that had faces and traces of death, pro wrestling, the internet, and Rotten.com. Like it's basically dump all of that awful shit like in a jar,
mix that in ink and print it on a
shake it
shirt.
up and dump it on a shirt, and there you go. There's my stupid
Faces
fucking brain.
of death. All right. Do you think that was real?
No, Faces of Death was actually fake. Traces of Death was the real shit. But it was like almost fucking intolerable to watch. If you ever see Traces of Death,
I didn't know.
It has like a weird like Norwegian like black metal soundtrack behind it, but it sounds like it was like recorded through someone's asshole. Like it was just like, and you're like, okay, calm the fuck down. So you could just mute the movie or mute the sound and then just watch the whole movie. It's better that way. You should watch it.
I don't think I will, man.
Watch it with your kids.
Yeah.
It's a good family fun time.
Come here, Nora. Check this out.
Yeah, you know, I think that my sense of dark humor and coping mechanism of dark humor already existed long before I went into, the police academy and stuff like that. But I do think that is a way that people manage and handle the things that they see out there. Because you don't see a lot of nice stuff. You don't get to go, oh, you know, I went and saved a puppy from a tree or a kitty from the tree today. No, it's like, oh, I got called to a murder or I got called to a domestic abuse situation. And you kind of have to manage things with dark humor, you know? And I think that there's enough people out there that aren't just kind of in that field of first responders that have had to handle things with dark humor. And I think that the way I portray my art and stuff like that kind of taps into that. And I know that I like people who have a dark sense of humor better than I like any other kind of people. Mm-hmm. You know, it's things are less taboo.
And you can really weed those people out because either they buy the shirt or they don't.
Yeah. So. You know what one of my favorite things was? I was doing a show and this female officer approached my booth and she comes up, she's looking at the shirts and I kind of laughed and I was like, hey, if you need help with anything, you know, just let me know. And she like laughs and she leans over and she pulls like kind of her vest out and her shirt down, like, and she shows me the top of a John Wayne Gacy shirt that she had previously bought for me at some point, and she was wearing that under her uniform.
Nice.
And I was just like, fuck yeah, dude.
Full circle. You're like, I'm there, dude. I didn't put this together till just now. You're trained and you are educated on the criminology side of things, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense too, because your shirts, although they're wildly outrageous, which like I said, is perfect to get attention. I mean, it's obvious what you do, but they're kind of sophisticated.
Thanks.
Don't just, if you look past the shock value, it's like Alice Cooper is a really nice, sophisticated guy past the shock value.
Yeah. Going through the criminology courses that they give you in that was one of the things that really kind of led me into that direction. You know, like I took a strong interest in it after that. I always had a small interest in it. You know, like I think every little punk kid, you know, reads about Manson or, you know, whatever. Like, but I think after those criminology courses, I really dived into it heavy. But, you know, when you say that it's sophisticated, there's sometimes where like I got too big for my britches, you know, like I did things that in my opinion, I thought were really cool and really smart, but like people just didn't fucking get. Like it just, I overcomplicated it in the story behind it, or like the story behind the shirt was just something more obscure from the case or whatever that people just didn't get and they didn't connect it to it. And when you have to explain a shirt to someone because they're like, oh, I don't get it. What's that? Then you have to explain it to them. They're like, okay, cool. And then they just fucking walk away because I just made them feel stupid and made them feel like they didn't know. And then that loses me a sale. So there's a fine kind of like area that you kind of have to tap into. Like you can't go too complex and I can't go too simple.
I struggle with that myself as an artist.
Yeah.
I really do. Like mainly with my words and my lyrics.
Yeah. You know what changed my process of design? And I feel like really helped me was I had moved out to LA and I was kind of struggling at the time and my designs weren't moving as well. And I just couldn't figure out really why. And I went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery and I went to see Vampira's grave. I went to see Johnny Ramone and Dee Dee Ramone's grave. And I get to Johnny Ramone's grave and I kind of like look down at the ground and I kicked this pin that was kind of smashed, been run over. And I picked it up and it said dumb shit sells. And I was just like, it felt like a fucking slap in the face to me. But then I was like, oh, wait, I fucking get it. Like, yeah, dumb shit sells. Where is it for me as an artist that I can't overcomplex things or overcomplicate things, but I can't make it dumb where I don't like it, you know? And I think that really, I found that balance. And I feel like once I did, I was really off to the races on like how I could reach people.
Well, the cool thing is like what you're doing now with the more sophisticated outfits, right? Or designs rather, you're going to have freedom where it won't matter. It isn't just a saying or a reference, right? You're doing just the overall apparel.
Yeah. And that actually is a simplification in itself. You know, if I can step away from graphic design and lean heavier into fashion design and keep it kind of like on like a fashion design that's a classic, but has a new current modern spin on it, that's perfect for me. That's perfect for like everybody. There's no complexity to it. They go, I like that. I like the way that looks. That's going to look good on me. You know, no one has to think about it or feel like they have to question if they can wear this fucked up Charles Manson shirt to their fucking Gam's house on fucking Sunday Easter dinner.
Yeah, there's one I'm going to try to get from you while you're in town here. But depending on when this is going to air, he's actually at the Oddities convention here in Indianapolis, Saturday and Sunday. But if you're catching this later in the future, disregard that. But this weekend, I'm actually going to try to go by your booth because you have this awesome Western shirt and it's got all the frills on it and stuff. And you can't find anything like that.
No.
And you could wear that to a wedding, a funeral, church.
On stage.
You talked about technology changing things. You said you started out with like Universal Monster type style horror, and then you moved into true crime. And you said true crime's kind of fading out now, right?
Yeah, you know, I feel like at least for me, for certain, I think the true crime stuff has run its course. But if you look where we're at in a social climate, you know, you can kind of see when that interest of true crime kind of turns that corner. I feel like the pushback is starting there. You know, I think that there's always going to be room for people telling those stories. When but there may not necessarily be room for me in what I do.
That is the thing with what you do in those shirts. Eventually, in this cancel culture we have here,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I've
I might get canceled having you on here.
I've gotten a little bit of pushback, and it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you're glorifying serial killers. And it's
Yeah,
like,
there you go. That's
no,
right.
I don't. If you actually look at what I do, and in the time frame of the true crime stuff that I do, like, it's not glorifying anybody. I'm really making a joke out of them. I'm, if anything, I'm kind of demasculating them or poking fun at them or whatever.
They would easily be offended by your t-shirts. Jim Jones would shoot you for his t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like, he would. And I will say that you were dead on the money with the true crime thing, because murderabilia, in case you don't know what that is, that's the selling of letters and photos and drawings and just relics of the past of these serial killers. It's called murderabilia. And I personally even own a Jeffrey Dahmer letter. And I own Eileen Mornos's Bible, and it's all handwritten all the way through it. Like, her notes and her handwriting is crazy.
I mean, I own Gacy paintings.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Do you have a pogo?
I do. I own paintings
Nice.
from Charles Manson too.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're both horrible people. and the murderabilia, like, that is hugely demonized now. Like,
But you know what? It's more expensive now than it ever has
well,
been.
because it's taboo. Now it's ultimately like it's wrong to own it by society standards. So if you want this Ed Gein signature, which I almost bought one time, and now I kind of regret I didn't, but regardless, yeah, you definitely have that. And you talk about the true crime for you. I think that is very interesting, because you've got, like, for instance, this show, I'll just use myself as an example. I did an episode of Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's been my most requested, popular type of episode.
I think when it comes to storytelling, people want to hear these stories. That proof is just in the pudding. I don't think the stories are going to go anywhere.
Right.
But I think that, like, when it comes to true crime merchandise has been around. I mean, you look at stories, comic books of Billy the Kid. You look into the 20s and 30s where Bonnie and Clyde had their own comic books. I mean, 1950s, you had Jesse James and Billy the Kid gun sets for children.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are murderers. These are people who were lawless well, not monsters, but maybe monsters.
Dude,
but
even then, you had even when freaking Ted Bundy was being killed, they had Friday t-shirts sold.
Burn Bundy Burn.
Yeah,
I
at his
did the reproductions of those.
Did you really?
I
Nice.
sure did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But they had those shirts at the prison. Like,
John Wayne Gacy had some. He had No Tears for the Clown. Bundy had Burn Bundy Burn, and I don't remember what Eileen had, but I remember watching the news. It was like 6 a.m, and I watched that execution on the news, like, when I was a teenager. So, like, it's true crime will always have a place in pop culture. It's never going anywhere.
especially like you said, the story time. I mean, we have Bailey
Sarian.
Yeah.
Hi, Bailey.
She's not gonna watch this.
She's gonna all text her. I'll be like, watch your show. Watch me make a fool of myself.
It's actually funny with her, just real quick. Especially if you are watching this, I just want to let you know how creepy it is. Dude, she's like another family member here. I swear to God, she's on every time. She's awesome.
And I think the reason why that pill is so easy to swallow coming from her is because she's witty with it. She's funny. Her delivery on things are witty. And so it kind of, like, brings that dark humor in. And I feel like sometimes that pill is a little easier to swallow with a little dark humor. I tried to basically, it's really hard for people to kind of piss on you if you just are always in the gutter, so that's kind of where I tried to stay. And I'm trying to, like, finally move out of the gutter a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think you've definitely earned it, man, being 14 years in. I think it's awesome. Like I said, his Instagram handle is Neil Diamond. That's his personal page. You have a wonderful new family that's being advertised on there and stuff I'd like to keep up with. And he has a very interesting page there, so check it out on Instagram. And then also, of course, you have Western Evil. Check out that page, and then westernevil.com. And keep up with everything he's doing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on the show. I'll do that since I just tattooed your hand yesterday. How's that doing?
Doing great.
Good. Yeah, I paid him to say that.
It's wonderful. It's art.
Do you believe in ghosts?